My dear people of Southern Cameroons, accept revolutionary greetings from me, John Ba Akuro. Today is Saturday, October 23, 2021. This is Saturday, as I said a while ago, and this is the second edition of The Soul of the Southern Cameroons. My people of the Southern Cameroons, on our program today, we are going to delve into the nitty-gritties of the lives of the people of the Southern Cameroons right from the time the British came in and took over from the Germans after World War One. You remember, we first of all found ourselves toast by the League of Nations, and eventually when the League of Nations itself crashed and was replaced by the United Nations somewhere in 1945, we were moved to under the United Nations but continued as trust territories under the French and the British. But the Southern Cameroons, actually the territory I'm talking about today, we were under the British as a trust territory under the United Nations. So on today's program, we are going to examine a lot of issues relating to this. And I have a guest, not like any other one, a man who had the opportunity to live through that period. Before I unveil my guest to you, I'd like us to delve a bit into some of the issues that made news in the course of the week. And I will begin with this one. The gentleman you see on my screen in white, I don't actually know his name because I tried to get that information until the last minute. I couldn't get it. I don't actually have his name. But this gentleman is one of the few who demonstrated a lot of bravery on that 16th of October when that gendarme officer of La République du Cameroun decided to cut short the life of baby Carol. He showed a lot of bravery, stepped out there and decided to go around and mobilize the people just by parading her remains in the city of Boya. At the moment I talk, I have been informed that La République du Cameroun laid siege on Boya and they captured him. And right as we speak, he is in the hands of La République du Cameroun. I haven't had the opportunity to actually verify this information because I tried to reach out. I tried to talk to a couple of people who are knowledgeable about what is happening around this young man. I haven't had complete information, but what I know is that if this is true, then I expect the people of Boya not to be calm. Don't tell yourself that it is him that they have taken and it is not you. So you are not concerned because the next time when they come, it will be you. Like I said, it has to be all for one and one for all. That is supposed to be our mantra. That is the way we have to do it to overcome the challenges that La République du Cameroun presents to us in matters of security right from 2016 that it took our land hostage. My people, I say this repeatedly because I think sometimes we forget. Sometimes we think that, okay, on that day I already went out, so I had played my part. Let others go out now and play their part. No, we have to do it to the end. That is why you notice that I have been here since 2017 that I started doing broadcasts, that I started coming to talk to our people about the need for us to restore our land, the need for us to ensure that we protect our independence, that we take back our sovereignty, sovereignty over our land, that we take back our dignity. I have been here. I have not moved. And I'm going to be here right up to the last moment when we will shout on the streets of Boya that free, free, free at last, we are free. So my people, I'm urging the good people of the Southern Cameroons to understand and recall that the only way we will make it, we will survive as a people, is standing together, is making sure we stand with one another. If we don't do that, we will fail. Today is this young man. Tomorrow it may be you. Look at this. Chief Dion Gute left Bamenda after he had been to Boya. And his claim was that he was coming around to talk peace. What peace has he left on our land? Because since his passage, things have just gone worse. I mean, things have gone worse and rough for our people, both within the southern Cameroons and out of the southern Cameroons. Take a look at this. This is Pamvo. Pamvo was having a nice time in his house in Womb. Pamvo did not know that the people of La République du Cameroun were going to ally with their Fulani friends to carry out an incursion at his home. An innocent man who didn't even know how to hurt a fly. The people who lived around him in that community said this is a man who just lived his life, who just liked to live his life. Today, Pamvo is no more. Destroyed in the cruelest of manners, reduced to ashes in his own house while he rested. These things have only been happening after Mr. John Gute came and left our land. As if this on Pamvo was not enough. Take a look at this.
Te mame fe wira baben ma traji esa wan de merveya wi be jangre ne wiri wiro kundra pata yo kundra ti be mame fe wira baben a wuru mo yo kundra pata wi dem kele kini haton ne la paska woli nyonga ay bo yiga ay bo wi ka ki haton ne la ay am wi ti la adam ton lan wan ben ti.
That gentleman is speaking there in Lamso. Of course, I know a good lot of us do not understand Lamso, but what he is saying is he's simply explaining to the people of the southern Cameroons that what you see that Omol are struggling to do is struggling to put out fire created by the talks Mr. Biya sends to La République du Cameroun to bring pain and carnage on our people. That is the peace that Chief John Gute brought to the people. My people, this past week has been a week full of this kind of events, full of this kind of occurrences. It's not as if our voices in the bushes, I like to say that sarcastically, and we all know, it's not like they've not been doing their best to protect the land. What I simply want to say is when we see images like these ones, they should move us. They should make us to understand that it will not be well with any one of us until we all work together, until we all bond together, until we all put our minds and hearts and heads together to think our way out of this carnage. The people of the southern Cameroons deserve this, and we are all in the best position to make this happen. Those of us who to take delight in peddling manipulations, in throwing around, divisive messages on the various platforms, each time you want to do that, just go and look at images like this ones. Look at the sufferings of our people and ask yourself, am I making a good contribution or I am a detractor? My people, I like us to at this point in discover who my guest is today. We shall be talking today with Pa Mufo. Pa Albert Mufo is an educationist. He's a man whose name is still, spoken in so many spheres in the southern Cameroons to date. Not because he was a politician, not because he was a business magnate, not even because he was an artist or a star, but because as an educationist, and because he is one of the most emblematic figures at ENS Bambili, he trained a good lot of the teachers who, unto this day, are still training our children in the various schools. Pamofo was born somewhere around 1941, so it's over 80 today. He had the opportunity to live through that time that we all wish is reenacted today and then improved upon. So I'd like us to, take a view at Pamofo Abel. Pamofo, you're welcome to the set.
Thank you, John Baakuro. Before we start, I would say my voice will not be the best because I've had a cold and a cough. But no matter, we'll go on. I will try. Thank you very much.
Pamofo, I'm delighted to have you on the set. And I think a lot of Southern Cameroonians are. So I'd like you to begin by telling me, how you feel like finding yourself before the people of the Southern Cameroons today, so many years after you left active service.
Well, as a teacher, all through my life, I have taught in primary school, secondary school, and up to university level. And as you ask, seeing the people of southern Cameroon as they are today, those of us who were almost like adults when we had the 1961 plebiscite, looking at what is happening now, tears must come out of one's eyes. You weep, you weep. I don't know where we are going to and how we shall end. First of all, I was a young teacher in Bali College in 1961 when we had a plebiscite. After the plebiscite, we had the Fumban Conference. Then we had a constitution. We looked at the constitution in Bali College. At that time, we had some Europeans teaching with us, some. So now, when they saw the constitution, oh, they say, well, you people will live well, just like in Switzerland. You have the French Swiss, you have the German Swiss, you have the Italian Swiss, and so on. You live well, and so on. It's not bad at all. But they did not know, that well, do I say the black or Africans or Cameroonians will not be able to make good use of what we had. So when I look at Cameroonians now, especially the West Cameroonians, I feel sad. Tears flow from my eyes. None of us who was an adult in those days can sleep. You see, we do not know that our leaders or some of our leaders in Fumban had what one can call a hidden agenda. We did not know. And I think it is that hidden agenda which has exploded. And of course, the first victim being the person who had the hidden agenda in his pocket. So when I look around now, I just weep and I don't know what we human beings are and what we are made of and what we think we are and where we are going to. I think that answers your first question.
It actually does, Pamofo. So I like to ask you what your reaction is to the first stories you heard me talk about. I'm sure you saw this old woman battling with, fire on her building. Sure, you saw the old man who was reduced to ashes. What does this do to you?
Well, as I say, to me, I just together with other things I've seen, to me, I think the human being, especially we Cameroonians, are the worst creatures God created. I'm sorry to say that. Because I mean, I can't imagine somebody or a group of people reducing human beings to that level. I still remember that when the whole of my lifetime in what we call British Southern Cameroon, I never heard of a policeman shooting a human being on the street or anywhere else. They were friends. They were all around to keep peace and not to harass people. So when I look at what is happening now, especially those two people, oh, what I mean, what can you really say? What is a human being made of? What can you say? Only tears continue to flow from your eyes. Thank you.
Bamafo, I understand how you feel. You would take your breath for a little bit while where I return to some of the things that really happened, this week. It's like I said, it's been a week full of pain, full of tears, full of sorrow, and full of confusion. Just take a look at this picture.
The phobe.
You will
The
see
room
for
la mami
yourself.
ben.
Oh
Try
my
for
goodness,
laugh
I
you way
guess
way.
I had it there wrong. You will bear with us. We are trying to change a lot of things in our technical operations. And so I guess by the fourth program, we shall be totally technique savvy. So I was saying, you take a look at this. This mother and all those who lost their homes in Kelaiki, they ended up in the forest. They ended up in open space like this. Nowhere to go to, nothing to do. This is how they ended up. And you ask yourselves, is this the peace that Chief John Gute said he was bringing to our land? Is this the protection that they tell us that these talks sent by Mr. Bia are bringing to our land? It's downright shameful. Downright shameful, my people. It's even disgusting to have to be talking about things like this at this moment, despite the attention of the international community drawn to this scorched earth policy being practiced in the southern Cameroons, decried by Honorable Tibor Nagy, the former U.S. Undersecretary for African Affairs at the Bureau of African Affairs at the U.S. State Department, where he identified France as being behind this scorched earth policy. La République du Cameroon is continuing unabated because they are convinced, they have in their psychic that the international community has given them a blank sheet to do whatever they like to do on our people. This brings me back to this notion that we have to be aware that our destiny is in our hands. And once we are aware that our destiny is in our hands, we should be able to bond together one way or the other to address these concerns. Because the time now, I've said it before and I repeat it, is not for rulership. It's not for a power tussle. The time now is for liberation. And if you think you have seen enough, oh no, wait on. Just hold on. Let me bring you the next clip so you understand you haven't seen enough. Because even across the Mungo, in La République du Cameroon, the same woes they are pursuing us with in southern Cameroons is an exercise. Just watch this.
Why is you say no one be left? Get television now for your room. You don't get the I've already said you get I don't remove the camera. Why? Why you remove why you remove it? The thing where you don't want to collect it.
Me, my name is Atabong Aloysius Nchonganyi. I be Anglophone. So, now my house is for the color post almost 30 to 40 years to get it out. I come out with bar. Then Dr. Nancy studied Jean Calvé. You can take the house. They pay one first year. After 1 year, they pay 5 months. I give receipt. From that time, I want accident. It is tell me now how I be Anglophone. I come up for it. Because the director, if they work for big people, to one say I fit do waiting. If the director, they drive me. I want to ask you again, he already bring up the document paper, we don't go write them, say you don't fix that. I ask you, say, but you want to fix that now, it's my authorize you. Because I'm not authorized to say, me fix my house. Bring them my money, it's a tell me now how, go bring, go in at 16,355,000. Don't say you don't fix that. So say now, let me pay my money. The owner 8 years, so I don't know. So I don't take it go court. Any tom, you don't even go to court. So we don't come up for Monday. Me and my begin. We can't shut up for door. He will find one come, we tell you, say, see that clinic. May go call a person, make can give money. Because my begin they have, they know way not there because now the only income where I get them. Now only have them where they give me money. I'm not getting no store, I'm not getting no business what they do. They don't run. From Monday to today, Wednesday. You know they see in even court. So I don't know. So I the big government, make government intervene for this kind of thing. Because they say big fish they swallow small fish. May they intervene.
You see, this is just one of the numerous problems we're having with La République du Cameroon. This gentleman, Mr. Achanye, he made his life's investment and knew that because I have made this kind of investment, at retirement, I may not bother about anything. My children and I, we can feed on this. Today, that investment cannot pay him. Mr. Chanyi cannot have anything from his investment because somebody is called Dr. Nausi, and because this Dr. Nausi says he is working for Gregoire Owona, he's working for an Owona. And because this Gregoire says he is a first-class citizen because he is a citizen of La République du Cameroon. For that reason, Mr. Achanye has no right. For that reason, Mr. Achanye should not come close for 8 years. And wait, my people. He even took the step to go right ahead and bring in the legal department to sort out his matter. But what has happened? Dr. Nausi flouts the courts. He doesn't go, he doesn't respect summonses and all whatnot, and nothing happens to him. Why? Because the matter is related to a third-rate citizen, to someone who does not even belong. So if any of you is still doubting whether the people of La République du Cameroon consider us as human beings, then this should be a quick reminder to those who still sit and think that there is anything good that can ever come out of Yaoundé. If you bear this in mind, you will understand with me carefully that all we have to do, all we have to keep thinking, all our actions and all our energy should be concentrated on liberating ourselves from this entanglement that we unfortunately found ourselves into since 1961. Listen, Cameroon, as it were, is not a country of law. I am not the one saying it. The international bodies that do the classification have done it. And out of 139 countries in the world, Cameroon ranks number 135. So there are only 4 countries in the world, 4, that are behind Cameroon when it comes to respecting the rule of law. But we, the people of the Southern Cameroons, the first thing we believe in is in the rule of law. So you see, we are unevenly yoked with people who don't share our values, who have nothing to offer to us, who by dint of being a lawless set have reduced our lives to nonsense. That is why this is what we keep being served anytime we raise our voices. Look at here, my people. In 2016, Mancho Bibixi, with a lot of young people in Bamenda, came out to the streets only to ask for roads in Bamenda. Only to ask for roads. What happened to Mancho Bibixi? Mancho Bibixi was rounded up, yes, court-martialed before the military tribunals in Yaoundé as if he was a kind of common criminal who had carried arms or done something, and he was handed a 13-year jail term. Conversely, we saw the people of the South block Minister Jacques Famendongo, cut trees, block the roads, do all kinds of things, and said they will not let them access until they have good roads because they have been fooled over and over and over. What was the response? Has anyone heard that anybody in the South was arrested in connection to this? No. On the contrary, about a week later, Mr. Jacques Famendongo descended to the South with a company with bags of money. I understood that it was immediately 200 million CFA to start working on some of the roads. And as if that was not enough, what did they do? They had to hold a meeting again of all the people of the South. They call it the Force Vive du Sud, the elite of the South. They were there, disauthorized, because we all know that our own Christian Cardinal Toomey of blessed memory requested to hold an all-Anglophone conference in Boya and was denied in the land of his birth. But these are Betty people. They are allowed. They had to go and sit down and discuss how to appease common criminals who even burnt down the Dio's office. Yes, who did horrible things. Nobody has been touched. What they are doing to them is pacification. But you, my people of Southern Cameroons, raise the eyebrow, name a problem, and the next thing that happens to you is wahala. The next thing that happens to you is wahala. What you see on my screen here right now is a paper from La République du Cameroun. This paper previews that La République du Cameroun was re-elected into the UN Human Rights Council. This is interesting. Very interesting. This La République du Cameroun that is being called out on a daily basis by virtually all the international bodies, even those attached to the United Nations, on basis of human rights violations. This is that same La République du Cameroun that today they are telling us is re-elected into the UN Human Rights Council. Their first election was a scandal, but that didn't mean a thing to Yaoundé. It didn't mean a thing at all, because what Yaoundé knows best is how to spray the resources that they tap and steal from La République du Cameroun onto any international body around the world to buy a name, but not by acts. It's this kind of things that they use to try and deceive our people that on the international scene, they are seen as saints. And to make some of our people to begin to doubt whether it is ever going to be possible to get the international community back to reason. Of course, we, by our acts, by our determination, by our resilience, will indeed bring the international community back to reason. We have even started doing so. The only problem we have is ourselves, is that we once in a while defeat ourselves. How do we defeat ourselves? By not wanting to work together, by wanting to continue to work in disparate ranks, by wanting to continue to fight one another when we are supposed to be synergizing, when we're supposed to be calling each other. We can disagree without necessarily being disagreeable. I'm going to turn my attention again once more to you, Bar Mofo. I know that you had the opportunity to leave situations in the southern Cameroons where the rule of law was actually the order of the day. I'd like you to tell the people of the Southern Cameroons how you feel when you read and hear that this same Cameroon we are watching today is elected into the UN Human Rights Council, or let me say re-elected.
Yeah, when you hear things like this, Stamba Akuro, you wonder what the human being is, really. And as I've said, in former West Cameroon, there was not just the rule of law on paper or in theory, but the rule of law was applied by everybody. Everybody was regarded as an equal human being. And I remember whenever DOs and administrators were appointed to their duties, they were asked to take service. They were civil servants. But now you hear a DO being installed, take command. What does that mean? It's a DO and we see a military person and so on. So, and about the rule of law, they say everybody was equal before the law. And by everybody, they mean everybody. Even if you were a minister of state, you were under the law. You were a politician, you were under the law. And in fact, it's so disheartening. You see, when we hear things like this, that there are some people, because you are related to a minister or because you come from this and so on, you can speak to somebody anyhow, or you can occupy somebody's house for years and years and you don't pay rent because you are this and that. No. I mean, as I say, when we look at things now, what can you? I mean, you see the way human beings are going around. You don't know. Sometimes you wonder, are these human beings? And some of them have gone to school, they've gone through education, and somebody will say education has not gone through them. When you are an educated person, you are somebody respectful, respectable, because of course people look at you as a leader, and a leader must lead by examples, and knowing that all human beings are the same, whether you are a minister or you are a laborer, you are equal before the law. The law is the law.
Were you
Thank you.
Palmer for? I take you back to the question I first asked. Are you scandalized that the international community appears to to say that Cameroon respects human rights to the point where they can admit them or readmit them? I mean, give them a new mandate in the UN Human Rights Council. When at the same time, these international bodies tell us that when you measure the countries in the world in terms of respect of the rule of law, Cameroon is 135 out of 139.
Again, when you look at that, you begin to wonder what this Human Rights Commission, what the United Nations is all about. You wonder, what are these human beings? Are they really doing the job they were appointed to do? And so on. So you just feel, I would say, scandalized. See? And sometimes you don't know where to go. But in any case, if you are convinced of what you are doing, just as we are, we go ahead, not minding whether the United Nations is doing this or doing that, but one day, as you have said, they will come to reason. Thank you.
My goodness, I know. Oh, I'm sorry. I think there was some moment of, sound issues there. I think you didn't get me. I was just saying that Pamofo will take his breath while I return to some of the issues that, marked this week. And I was saying that I want to give Grandpa of Bali a pat on the back because of, you know, his demonstration of strength. I know you're not able to read this document properly because it's a bit blurred, but this is the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer for MESAM, Mr. Simon Emile Mon, in a prefectural order, lifting the ban he imposed on the circulation of motorbikes in the Bali local government area. Do we know why? This is simply because the people of Bali refused, refused to let the colonial administration go with such an act. And so when Grandpa, their son, our brother, our hero, stood up and said, nay, this will not work. If you suspend the circulation of motorbikes, which serves as source of employment for thousands of youths in Bali, which serves as source of livelihood for thousands of people who depend, I beg your pardon, on these young men riding bikes for livelihood, who depend on them for everything, for education, for healthcare, for everything, then no vehicle will circulate. Grandpa didn't block the roads. No. Grandpa did nothing. Grandpa didn't place any barricades on the Bali Road. No, he didn't. Grandpa didn't go out there to set people that go and stay on the road and make sure nobody passes. No, he didn't. Word of mouth. The people of Balinyunga operated in this way. They said, we are the faithful flock. We know our shepherd, and our shepherd knows us. Because our shepherd has spoken, we will act according unto his word. And today, it is the entire Bali that is celebrating. It is the entire Mezam County that is celebrating. It is also Momo that could not move things out through Bali that is celebrating. It is also Manu that could not move things out that is celebrating. It is the entire southern Cameroons that is in celebrations today. My people of the southern Cameroons, this is what I mean generally when I say it is a matter of one for all and all for one. If you doubt what I say, watch the jubilation and hear what is being said in this clip.
The first vehicle that stepped into Bamenda this morning from Bali, Batsibo, transporting foodstuffs. You can see the joy in Bamenda here. You can see everybody's happy, everybody is so dismayed. We cannot even know what we can express, man. The joy is so overwhelming. Welcome back, Bamenda. Welcome back to the city of Bamenda. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The first vehicle that
finish without down that block. I said I've finished without down that block. My people of the Southern Cameroons, we now move on to the VIV of our program. And as we do this, I want to extend a hearty condolence, a hearty message of condolence to the family of Mr. Tiba Hardison Mendini. That's one of our prisoners of war who unfortunately saw the government of La République du Cameroon, terrorize him until he passed out. He was so seriously manhandled in SED, and so when they finally took him from SED to the prison in Kondengi, he felt so sick, was taken to the hospital, and of course he passed on to in chains, like those who had passed on in that detention center before him. I want to express my heartfelt sympathy to the bereaved family, and I want to seize this opportunity to tell the people of the Southern Cameroons that this is one more reminder of the fact that we have to do everything to possess our home. With our people continually being captured in our land and then dragged to a foreign land where they are treated so poorly, where they are manhandled, where they are beaten as if they were animals, it gets to a point where we say enough of this, that we can't take it anymore. I have a lot of pain in my heart, in my mind when I talk about this. And I think that we all have this same pain. And so let us all have a pious thought in honor of this fallen hero. My brother, Mr. Tiba Hardison Mendini, go in peace, rest in peace until we meet again to part no more. But one promise I make to you is that myself, seated in the studio, I will never waver until we get to Boya. And I know it's the same commitment that thousands, millions of Southern Cameroonians have made, that even those who appear to be hanging on the fence today will recognize that it's time to come back to the fold. You might have been driven off the struggle for one reason or the other, but take note, you're not fighting for anybody. You begin by fighting for yourself, for your children, for your family, then for Southern Cameroonians and for posterity. So you see that one way or the other, though you're fighting for Southern Cameroonians, you begin first of all by fighting for yourself. And if you take it from that angle, you will see that we will all continue to be committed and not think that someone sitting somewhere has the power to order us into and out of the struggle. This picture you have on my preview or on the screen is a picture that dates back in 1995. I brought in this picture last week. I'm bringing this picture again just before I get to Palmofo because this picture has a huge significance. Listen, for those who really don't know what happened on this day, although you see some inscription there that when Foncha and Muna finally said yes to separation and independence for Southern Cameroons, say the separation process between the Southern Cameroons and French Cameroon began at the Mungo Bridge when the UN flag was raised by the SCNC leaders in 1995 on their return from the UN. So, my people, when you look at this, you will remember that 10 years after, this was in 1995, in 2005, this bridge on which they were standing, this Mungo Bridge, as you see, because you will never see this bridge again if you get to the River Mungo. There's some new structure there. This bridge collapsed in 2005. The bridge crashed. And that crash of this bridge was marking the end of any union we have with La République du Cameroon. Our forebears who were there in 1961, who took us into this unholy union, fortunately, we're still alive in 1995 to go again to the United Nations and to tell them we are tired of the rape in which you forced us into. Should I say the rape in which you forced us into? That we are tired of being where you caused us forcefully to get into. You force us today to stay with the people who have raped us. It's just like you have your daughter, and a man breaks into your house and rapes this young girl, and you force her to marry him. This is the message our forebears took to the United Nations in 1995. And in response, the Secretary General of the United Nations at the time handed them this flag and said, take this flag to your people. Take this flag to your people. Because if you come from this perspective, then you're coming back to your status as a UN trust territory, meaning our decolonization process was never over. And so returning with this flag to the people of the southern Cameroons, Bamuna, Bafoncha, and all those who are with them, the SCNC leadership at the time decided to only unveil this flag on the Mungo Bridge. They mounted the Mungo Bridge. As they were crossing to the southern Cameroon's end, they unveiled the flag as a symbol of our freedom. That message from the United Nations in 1995, the flag that they handed to our forebears, they didn't tell them, no, it's impossible for you to take back your sovereignty. They didn't tell them, no, it's impossible for you to cut off with this partner that has only been problems, problems, problems. They gave the flag. Take this to your people. The message was clear. If your people agree and they are with you, then your will be done. That was the message from the United Nations. That was the message from the United Nations in 1995. In 2005, that bridge went down. But don't forget that after this bridge went down in 2005, in 2010, the United Nations followed up with the Secretary General of the United Nations at the time, sending an envoy to the presidency of La République du Cameroon on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the independence of La République du Cameroon with two maps. Two maps. The map of the Southern Cameroons and the map of La République du Cameroon as it were in 1961. That was another significant message. So when people say the United Nations will never let us, nobody would ever let us, they have spoken to us and they have been waiting for us to do our part. This is our part that we're engaged in doing. And so we must do it all the way to the end. At this juncture, I want to bring in the erudite Pamofo once more. Pamofo, I will be asking you to tell our people how you felt in 1995 when you saw Pamuna and Pafoncha return from the United Nations with this flag. What was your feeling?
Well, my feeling, John, is that as you have already said, the United Nations depends on us. It depends on us. They can never force us to do what we absolutely do not like to do. We went into a union, and I said, thinking that it will work. As I've already said, the French teachers and German teachers who were with us in Bali College in those days, they were happy. They thought that we would work out a union with people who were reasonable. And they thought that they were as reasonable as us. But as we have seen, these are people who are different in almost everything they do. I still remember some people who have worked very intimately in government in La Republic, I remember Mr. Muchia, who was interpreter to Ahijo. I remember Honorable Luma, who was Vice Minister of Education. And I remember Mr. Forsum, who also worked in the presidency very many years. And when they told us, they said, no, this union cannot work. And if a marriage cannot work, I mean, a divorce is the best thing to do, because a forced union does not benefit anybody. It was, I mean, nobody benefits from a forced union. There's no doubt about that. Go up and come down. A forced union can never work. That's my own opinion.
Yes, what you are saying is exactly what the late Molanjo Litumbe said a lot of times. He actually called the whole thing, even not a force, he called it Njumba. And he said, I mean, come we stay is not marriage. And so the people should be free at any given point to want to opt out of this unfaithful and unacceptable union. But Pamofo, I'm coming back to you. When was the first time that you, as an individual, started feeling the cracks in the wall in this union between, in this failed union between La République du Cameroun and the people of the Southern Cameroons?
Um, right from 1966, our own people started feeling that they were not as comfortable as they were when we were with Nigeria. They saw Zandans not being friends to people around, but as enemies, harassing women, harassing children, harassing people, and so on. Then around 1960, I remember Led Forlong. He wrote on papers, newspapers, shall we make Oma? Shall we make Oma? We started seeing that there was a crack. But unfortunately, our leaders of those days, as the West Cameroonians, did not take advantage of that. They did not understand that things were not going the way we thought they would. Then in 1966, Ahijo suggested to the political leaders, people who had political parties, he suggested that they should unite all the parties and so on. People, if you were a philosopher and if you could see far, we saw that things were not going the way we thought they would. And then in 1972, of course, we all know what happened. We know what happened. Again, 1975, and of course, 1982. Of course, we again know what happened. And what we should learn from this is that nobody has benefited from all those intrigues. Nobody benefits from intrigues. And as I said already, that the person who had a hidden agenda in his pocket, when the hidden agenda exploded, he was the first victim. You see, we gain by being truthful, and we gain by being respectful, and we gain by respecting other human beings as ourselves, and we gain by knowing that if we live peacefully and honestly, all of us benefit. Thank you.
Uh, Pamofo, do you think that if the leaders of the Southern Cameroons at the time decided to rise up or decided that they wanted to take some kind of action, do you have the feeling that they would have had the people popularly flowing with them? Because I remember reading somewhere in the history books that when Foncha started complaining to Ahijo about the fact that this is not what we agreed, the arrangements we have are not being respected, and things like that, and that my people will not accept this. And Ahijo asked him, which people? Where are the people. Do you have the feeling that the resignation at the time that Foncha ended up rather saying, okay, when our children grow up, they will fight? Perhaps it was because he felt that he will no longer have the kind of following required to force the hand of La République du Cameroun to backtrack.
It usually said, hit the iron while it is hot. I was not in the country in 1972. I was in Britain when that referendum was held. But I heard that around that time, people were disgruntled, and West Cameroonians in Boya and all over was highly dissatisfied. The thing that the problem was that a few people tried to please Ahidjo and so on. They didn't know where they were going to. But I think that if they rose up at that time and taking into consideration that you hit an iron while it is hot, I will imagine that things would have worked out.
Don't forget that Ahidjo was a very reactionary leader, very reactionary. Perhaps we should look at it again up in issue. At what point in this union did the central administration in Yaoundé suppress the Southern Cameroon's police? At what point did they make sure that we no longer had any form of forces that could be loyal to any leader in the Southern Cameroons and that could stand up to protect the people of the Southern Cameroons and ensure that we were not swallowed up, as Mr. Biya said, in France?
I think it was as far back as around 1960, in the 1960s. In the 1960s. In fact, when the gendarmes came, the women were complaining and so on and all the like. Then, as Pa Foncha said at one time, they suppressed the mobile wing and so on, so that their own forces took over. In fact, around the 1960s, going up to 1970s, and I would think that if our people stood up, if they united, you see, if Pa Fonta, Pa Muna, Pa Jua, and so on united, they would have succeeded. There's no doubt about that. I think that's my own opinion.
Are you telling me that they were just as divided as we are today?
Precisely, and that is what has taken us to where we are today. It is usually said, united you stand, divided you fall. If they were united, Ahidjo would not have been able to change that constitution of 1961, because there's a clause there which says that the state of the union will never be changed. But Ahidjo manipulated and so on with the support of some of our own leaders and was able to do what he did.
Well, I will let you, for you take your breath just for a little bit, but you are not going away. Just time enough for me to, recall to the people of the Southern Cameroons that you are on the soul of the Southern Cameroons. This program affords us the opportunity to go back, to look back at what prevailed, to look back at what happened, to try to educate those of our people who were not born by 1961 or who were born after 1972 and really know very little about what happened. This will afford us the opportunity to avert the kind of manipulations that we are getting from those who pretend to be our elite. You will recall that one of the things they do first is try to give us the impression that the Southern Cameroon started as Northwest and Southwest. But I'm sure when I displayed this map last week, a good lot of people have called me, have reached out, that it was the first time they were noticing that truly Northwest and Southwest never existed in the fabrics of the Southern Cameroons, and that it was a ploy by the colonial administration to divide us and then find an opportunity to rule over us. to break us and then find an opportunity to ensure that we get to a point where we don't talk to one another. When you see these gentlemen, Endele, Foncha, Joa, and Muna, the order in which you see them, this is the order in which they were our leaders. They were prime ministers of the southern Cameroons, the UN Trust Territory of British Southern Cameroons. First, as soon as our forebears returned from Enugu in Nigeria, and they returned precisely because they were not satisfied with the way we were being treated in the fabric of the politics of Nigeria. And they came away from Enugu without a gunshot, without even a word of threat. No one threatened our people. They came peacefully. And the Nigerians recognized that we were a separate people, that the British wanted to administer us, alongside Nigeria, by bringing us together, but we were dissatisfied and our people moved peacefully and went and settled in Boya and found our nation. And when they did that in 1954, the first democratic election in the Southern Cameroons yielded EML Endele as prime minister. The next election yielded John Good Foncha as prime minister. And John Good Foncha was going to be the prime minister that rode us right into 1961, where we found ourselves, in the situation we found ourselves having to either get independence by joining La République du Cameroon or not. And then when John Good Foncha, therefore, became vice president of the Federal Republic of Cameroon, an emanation from the coming together of the Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroon, there was another election, democratic election, which ushered in Honorable Augustin Ngom that you see in third position here. He became the prime minister, but this time of West Cameroon, because while Endele and John Good Foncha were prime ministers of Southern Cameroons, the evolution happened that Honorable Ngom became the first prime minister of West Cameroon. And then Muna, Solomon Tandem Muna, became the first prime minister of West Cameroon, or governing the area that used to be known as Southern Cameroons, as an appointed prime minister. He was appointed by Ahidjo, because Ahidjo took upon himself, because of the anxiety of Honorable Augustin Ngom to assert the authority of the prime minister of West Cameroon, to assert the independence, not absolute independence as it were, because in a federal union, there are powers that are devolved to the states that make them independent of the central government to a certain level. And because he wanted to assert that power, Ahidjo will go all the way until the point where he unconstitutionally fires Augustin Ngom and appoints Solomon Tandem Muna as prime minister of West Cameroon. This is when things begin to go crescendo. This is when things begin to go completely off hands until we find ourselves in 1972, where the federation is completely erased, and then Solomon Tandem Muna ends up as Speaker of the National Assembly. I go back down memory's lane so that we all understand calmly how we found ourselves where we find ourselves today, and how it went gradually. They were methodical. La République du Cameroon was in no haste. They had set in place a plan, working with France as the advisor, and with the British looking on, because the British had simply already handed us over to France, and the French called it un petit cadeau de la reine. That is how things got to this kind of zigzag end. And I'm coming back to you, Bamofo, because I want to find out, I'd like you to edify people on, the reaction of the people of the Southern Cameroons when things begin going down and down the drains.
Yeah, our reaction was terrible. You see, I still remember I was a teacher in PSS Kumba. I think it was 1968 when Pa Muna was appointed in the National Assembly, in Cameroon House of Representatives, Cameroon Assembly, West Cameroon Assembly, let me say that. The appointment was done by Ahijo unconstitutionally, because the Prime Minister of West Cameroon was supposed to be the leader of the main party. But Ahijo in connive with a few other people from West Cameroon, unconstitutionally appointed Muna as the Prime Minister of West Cameroon. And of course, people kept quiet, and it's so difficult to know. And as I've always said, if you handle things while they are hot, but our people did not handle them, and they allowed things go like that until 1972.
And the things did not only end in 1972, they got worse.
Of course, they got
They
worse.
got worse
They got
because
worse.
since we accepted the fake referendum in 1972, or the fake, is it referendum? Yes, in 1972, they felt that it was a blank check for them to continue to do any kind of thing that they want, because if we had accepted that one, there will be no way for us to backtrack at another point. But Pa, you voted in the referendum of 1972, and there's been so much talk about people having to choose between we and yes. Can you tell me what exactly was it?
No, I did not vote. I did not vote. I was studying in Britain at that time. But what I heard was that when I came back, people in Bambley, where I worked for a long time after night, but when I returned from Britain, I worked for a long time. People told me that the referendum was fake because, as some people said, when they went after the voting or whatever, there were papers on the blank papers scattered all over, and that the students voted no, 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 no. But the results came out were 90 something 99% for we or something like that. You see, I did not vote for that time. I was not around. But what I heard was, in fact, deplorable. It was fake.
I'm saying that is that kind of thing, I'm sorry, like you say in French, that keep a gang, that you lose and you win. Because how
That's
do you
right.
explain that if a lot of our students know that they voted for no, then how do you explain that they ended up with 99% for yes?
That's
And
right.
how did it sound like?
But people, it's so difficult. People, I don't know whether people were hypnotized, and our leaders did not know where they were leading us to, because usually leadership is a very, very complicated thing. But it's simple if you are honest. You see, and it seems our leaders did not know where they were leading us to. As I've said, they did not hit the iron while it was hot.
Thank you very much, Pamo, for I will let you take your breath again while I try to get the people of the southern Cameroons once more down a memory lane, because as we all know, under the Ahijo regime, they never believed in anything or election that never produced, simply put, kind of 100%. They could try to accommodate some kind of 99.99999 something, so that they just give the impression that yes, about one or two people voted against this thing and so on and so forth, but that the entire public were behind us. Now, this is the first time that personally I actually hear from someone who talked to the people who voted that we all voted no. But how did it turn out to be yes? Which means that it effectively were the ballot papers that we saw that showed that it was either we or yes. So they definitely took the we for no, not knowing that that we was a translation of yes, which means you had to choose between yes and yes. This is exactly how far it went. This is exactly how much La République du Cameroon took us for a ride. Knowing some of these facts leave me extremely annoyed. Knowing some of these facts today make me feel extremely abused. Made me ask myself questions. Were we drugged? Or what really happened? What came over us? And over the years, we refused to honor those old people of those times who made up the bigger number of the militants or supporters of the Southern Cameroon's National Council. We will talk about how we got to the Southern Cameroon's National Council in another edition of this broadcast. But today, I just say we never showed them honor. We never respected them. We joined the misguided political elite because we did not know, in calling them frustrated, retired civil servants who did not know what they were doing, who were disgruntled that they didn't, plan their lives properly. But little did we know that they were laying the foundation on which we shall be working today to ensure the freedom of our land. The continuous education that they dished out to our people, even when they were being arrested all the time and detained, and we will laugh at them. Some of them even died in exile. Most of us never even knew what it meant by being on exile at the time, but some of them were already died in exile fighting for the Southern Cameroons. Today, we actually have the leader of the Republic of Ambazonia, Fongoji Dinka, who fought over and over relentlessly, even right in the courts. I still remember that it was in 2010 when I was looking, was it 2010? No, that was right back in up to 2012, when I was looking at a ruling that was issued by the Mezam High Court at the behest of Fongoji Dinka. And this was actually pushed and followed up so seriously by a young lawyer at the time, who took the risk to also abandon his career at that time already, when most of us were not even aware of what was happening, to go out there and fight in the courts, as Shufai bless civism in the courts, to ensure that the matter had diligent hearing. And this was because Fongoji Dinka was praying the Mezam High Court to rule that by signing a decree in 1982 and on January 1, in 1984, I beg your pardon, and on January 1, unilaterally, Mr. Paul Biya, to change the name of the country from United Republic of Cameroon, which was already a travesty from Federal Republic of Cameroon, to the Republic of Cameroon that existed prior to the coming together of the two Cameroons in 1961, was a kind of secession. And so he called it the Restoration Law. And it was through the actions and fights of people like Shufai Bless Servicism, under the guidance of Fongoji Dinka, that the Mezam High Court, in a landmark ruling, some of the judges that passed that judgment were progressively tracked until they were all killed. Justice Fombe died in Yaoundé just a few years ago in very unacceptable circumstances. He's one of the trio that passed this ruling, saying that La République has seceded from the Union and authorizing Fongoji Dinka to reinstate, to restore the independence of the Southern Cameroons and then call it Ambazonia. I know a lot of us haven't seen that ruling. I'll have the opportunity to bring it on this program and bring a legal mind to dissect that ruling so we all understand that we are not the first to do it. We are building on the actions, on the activities, on efforts put in by our forebears year in, year out. They were in the minority at the time. That is why their voices were not heard. Today, those of us who are saying enough with La République du Cameroon are in the majority. And that is why today we can pride ourselves. We can pride ourselves on claims and on grounds that we will get to where we want to get to. Although the one thing still holding us is the simple fact that we are yet to understand the meaning of synergy, synergizing our efforts, putting together our efforts to ensure that we get there. Pamofo, if you had the opportunity today to find yourself back in the 19 say in the period between 1972 leading up to 1984 when La République simply seceded from the Union, what will you do?
Well, the ordinary person will not do much. But our so-called leaders, that was, I mean, that's the main article, the first article of a constitution, the name of the country, for one person to sit down and change. And then the West Cameroonians who were in the National Assembly kept quiet. It was only Gorji Dinka. Gorji Dinka was not a leader, he was just an ordinary lawyer. But he took upon himself to challenge. In fact, I even read the small, few pages he wrote about the action of Mr. Beer. But we had our so-called leaders there. They were in parliament and so on. They said nothing. We expected them to say something. And if all of them wrote and said, no, this is unconstitutional and this is secession by East Cameroon from the Union, at least that would have meant something. But as I've always said, leadership, if you want to be a leader, be a leader. If you don't want to be a leader, please look for a place and sit and be a follower.
Pa, I'm itchy to ask you this question. You are observing what is going on today with the struggles of the people of the Southern Cameroons to right the wrongs of 1961, to make sure that we leave a better Cameroon for future generations. It's true that above 80, your future is behind you, but I see you still actively trying to impart the knowledge that you have on the people and the little determination you have to make sure that we move on. What is your driving force?
Well, my driving force is that even if you are dying today or dying tomorrow, you should leave a bright future for your children, for your grandchildren, and so on. So my driving force has been that if we cannot stay together, let us separate. And if we separate, um, both parties will live in peace and they will live as good neighbors and so on. As we have always said, there's no point forcing a union. If you force a union, both parties will suffer. So, as I say, even if I'm dying tomorrow, I want that the future of my children, my grandchildren, should be protected and should be peaceful.
And before we go, I just can't let you off the hook without having you talk a bit about the education in the Southern Cameroons. At least that was your domain. Don't worry, there are not going to be too many questions again. I'm very delighted that you found time to be on this program. When you look at the educational system in the Southern Cameroons, that became one of the triggers of this movement. The creation of Caste Bambili by Fonch at the time was meant to ensure that, by its name, the Cameroon College of Science and Technology was meant to ensure that our people get the kind of training that will make us job creators and not job seekers. What went wrong? Why did this dream end up as a dream? And that caste remained with the name, but the substance was gone.
First of all, what we call Cameroon College of Arts, Science, and Technology. They were patterned. Caste Bambly was patterned after the Nigerian colleges of science and technology. For instance, they had Ibadan College of Arts and Science and Technology. There was one in Kaduna. There was one in Enugu. So when our people seceded from Nigeria, came to Cameroon, there was also only one university in Nigeria. So they said they have to create a college of arts, science, and technology, which will grow up to be a university for Cameroon. That's for Southern Cameroon. So CAST was created, and according to what Frontier said, when he came to the United States of America, the president of the US gave some money for a university to be constructed or to be built in West Cameroon. That was in Bambly. But as Ahijo had his tricks and so on, he had the money and then used it for some other things or whatever, University of Yaoundé and so on. So from that, the Bambly, even the aspect of technology was hardly developed. You see, because they had to develop technology, they had to do engineering, they had to do agriculture, they had to do some other things and so on. Those aspects were never developed because time was, there wasn't time for West Cameroonians to sit down and then to continue as the as the Nigerian College of Science and Technology did. Because eventually, those Nigerian colleges of art became universities. So our own too was to become a university. But since Ahijo had his plan, of course, he did not allow a car to grow upward. Instead, Cameroon College of Arts was relegated to the status of a high school and so on. Then later on, of course, CAS is just like any other secondary school in Cameroon. That was Ahijo's duty. He did that. And of course, we were all seeing it, our leaders were seeing it.
That is quite regrettable. So, Pa, we are rounding up on this program today because at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have to cut it off, and that will be 10:30 p.m. West African Time. That is Amber Time. So, as we are parting ways on this program, what piece of advice do you have for the leadership of the struggle of the people of the Southern Cameroons for freedom? But I'd like you to be really frank. What do you think we are not doing right that needs to be done differently to shorten our journey to freedom?
What I would say is that those of us who have taught history, we used to think that you teach history so that the past can enter into the present and inspire the future. That is, people can learn from history. So our leaders and all West Cameroonians should learn from history, colonial history, modern history, ancient history. You get things like manipulations and so on. You get things like divide and rule, which was practiced in Europe and practiced everywhere in the world. Divide and rule and so on. And our people do not look at that. They don't see. So some people think that when you are appointed in a position, you are loved or something like that. They don't know that they want you to support them because you know that somebody who suppresses others cannot suppress them without the support of a few people who are suppressed. So, if there is anything I would like to let our people know, is that united we stand, united we stand, divided we fall. Even though there is no movement without traitors. After all, Jesus Christ had only 12 disciples, and out of the 12 disciples, there was one traitor or enabler, as we say. There will always be enablers, there will always be traitors, but the majority will always, as people say, carry the vote. The movement will go on.
Thank you very much, Pamofo. I am very delighted that you found time in your busy schedule to be part of this program all the way from Birmingham. You're coming all the way from Birmingham in Alabama in the United States of America. So thank you very much, Pamo, for your time. And be certain we are going to bring you back on this program so that we delve again into one important aspect we raised and didn't go very much into the educational sector and how La République du Cameroon started playing with our education as a measure of, black on black colonialism. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
So, my people, today was another great day, and I want to express sincere thanks to Pamofo, and I want to invite all other Southern Cameroonians who absolutely have something that they can contribute to bringing our people to know our history, to know where we came from, to understand why we are where we are today, and so that this will in turn help in letting everyone recognize that the only thing we need to do is bond together, fight together as one bunch so we win together as one bunch. Because if we don't do that, we're definitely going to die as individuals and as fools. My people, we have come a long way. We are very close to scoring the goal. We have only ourselves, my dear people of the Southern Cameroons, to do what we need to do. The international community will only move when we cause them to move. They are beginning to move because we are doing a great job. But we will do a greater job if we foster synergy. This is something I say here always. Listen, my people, don't, as a people, settle for less than you deserve, because you always end up with less than you settle for. Make sure that the only thing you demand from the leadership of your group, of your movement, of your organization should be synergy. We're not asking for a merger. We're only asking that we should have unity of purpose. We can disagree on policy, we can disagree on approaches, but at least one thing that we all continue to agree to is that we want freedom, we want independence. Therefore, we must be able to forge a way to overcome this challenge. Thank you very much. It was a nice Saturday afternoon, and I'm delighted that you set aside your numerous duties to be part of this broadcast. Until next Saturday on yet another edition of The Soul of the Southern Cameroons, it's have a nice time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.